All right. Of those 17 cases, I actually want to highlight 2 of them that have come up recently. They're very significant, and also just as information we want to get out to the public in case we have survivors of sexual assaults maybe who have reported or have not reported, maybe something that they feel could be related to this. In 2015, in the early morning hours of May 31st, a Hispanic male wearing a mask broke into the victim's apartment in the 200 block of Seven Oaks Road. Once inside, the suspect physically assaulted and raped the victim at knife point. The suspect was described as being a skinny Hispanic male with a black mask, brown t-shirt, Timberland boots, and with a strong body odor. The sexual assault kit in this case was submitted for testing in 2018 as part of our initiative. In January of 2019, a report was submitted that male DNA was present and was suitable for entry into the CODIS system. The North Carolina State Crime Laboratory entered that unknown male profile into CODIS in May of 2019. In November of 20, a CODIS hit to a Carlos Dominguez Aguilar, 81093, was originated from the FBI DNA database. Upon further investigation, investigations discovered he was arrested in early October of 2020 in Texas for illegal re-entry into the country and was currently in custody with the U.S. Marshals in Texas. This was where we discovered that his actual DNA was finally collected for CODIS entry. So in December of 2020, Carlos Dominguez Aguilar was indicted for first-degree rape and burglary. In January of 2021, Aguilar was sentenced to 10 months active time for illegal reentry and is scheduled for release in August of 2021. At this time, Immigration and Customs Enforcement has placed a hold on Aguilar upon release. He will be served with the indictment and brought to North Carolina. So this one's still pending trial and service. In 2007, we had a case that came up after midnight, November 10th of that year. The victim was awaiting her boyfriend in the parking lot of Creekside Landing Apartments, Willow Creek Circle. As the victim was unloading items into her vehicle, she was approached by an unknown person described as either Hispanic or black male with a round, chubby face. The suspect forced the victim into the passenger seat of her vehicle. The suspect then drove the victim a short distance and where he raped the victim. The suspect then drove her towards the apartment complex where the suspect stopped the vehicle and fled on foot. In October of 2019, the sexual assault kit was submitted for testing as part of our initiative. The testing developed a male DNA profile which was eligible for entry into the CODIS system. In May of 2020, an unknown male DNA profile was entered into CODIS by the North Carolina State Crime Laboratory. Then on January 23rd of 2020, investigations received a case-to-case match from an unknown male DNA profile to 2 different cases out of Florida. The investigations learned that in February of 2007, a woman was raped in Key West, and then in May of 2007, a woman was raped in Fort Lauderdale. All 3 cases were tied together through the unknown male DNA. After speaking with investigations in both Key West and Fort Lauderdale, it was determined more advanced testing should be conducted. So at this time, Durham Police Department took upon itself in September of 2020 to work with Bodie Technology to perform forensic genealogy testing. So then in February 22nd of 2021, genealogy investigations provided our investigators with a potential suspect by the name of Isidore Sullivan Jr. based on the age and his location at the time of the rape in November of 2007. Our investigations conducted a departmental database search of Sullivan. The search showed that Sullivan had actually been arrested in 2018 by the Durham Police Department for attempted rape and kidnapping. The investigation was also able to use evidence from this 2018 investigation to confirm that Sullivan was indeed the suspect from the November 10th, 2007 assault. So on April 5th, 2021, Isidore Sullivan Jr. was indicted and charged with second-degree rape and first-degree kidnapping and second-degree sex offense. Sullivan was arrested on April 7th of 2021. And also the investigation is working very closely with the Fort Lauderdale and Key West Police Departments at this time. I'd also like to highlight that we also received funding in another form of a grant from the federal government. In our continuing effort and commitment to bring closure towards survivors of sexual assault and also identify offenders of cold case sexual assaults, We applied for and was awarded funding through the 2020 Sexual Assault Kit Initiative, as we know as SAKI. We received $518,067, in which that funding will be used to continue testing and also expand our unit as needed. I also like to bring to attention too that this month is Sexual Assault Awareness Month. There are many activities going on, especially through our partnership with Durham Crisis Response Center, which I like to say a lot of those can be found on our website through DPD. And at this time, is there any questions? Yes. That's okay.
Could you talk more about what exactly?
Yes. So, with the original one from 2019, that helped us build our unit, being 2 investigators, having our own advocate for these, and also the cooperation with the Durham District Attorney's Office. This grant that we went for for 2020, we sought for funding to actually give us monies to conduct these forensic genealogy testings, because they have to be done through a private laboratory. That's not something the North Carolina State Crime Lab has the capabilities for right now at this time. And then also, that's another position where we're adding what we refer to as a crime analyst, data specialist, to help with also tracking and identifying cases that maybe are even related to untested kits for repeat offenders, and also keeping track of our information as well. So that's why we pursued that grant separately to provide that funding.
And when?
We received that back in October of 2020. We're getting ready to post that. We've gotten through that process, and we're also finishing up the contract work for the funding.
I mean, when people who live here in Durham,
Especially for when we talk about the forensic genealogy, these are going to be cases that, as you saw from these 2, they were entered into the CODIS system several months, even sometimes a year back, and that person was never in the CODIS system or gets into it late, but most of the time they may not be in the CODIS system. So we know we have a viable profile to work with. That's where the forensic genealogy helps, because we can use these genealogy databases that provide and let their customers know that we submit to law enforcement review, so we can do those searches. That's how, like, the 2007 case came about, was we worked through the genealogy services with Bodie Technology and their investigators to do basically a family tree search once we saw there was a match within that databases. So it's really a big plus, and plus too, hopefully with the analyst position, that's going to help us find cases even maybe where there wasn't a strong sexual assault kit or forensic evidence, but we can still find those cases as well, and link up with those victims, see what we can do to help with those cases. No, we're still very much in the process of getting us through. We're working very closely with the state lab. Just so you know, of course, 2020 is very challenging for many people, but at the end of that, in the beginning of this year, the state lab, and I give a lot of credit to them, how they've been working with our outsourcing, is we've been able to actually send more than we normally would, whereas we'd have a batch of only 60. We're now sending 200, and we're going to send another batch of 400 plus kits to it. So we're slowly working towards that. It's just, can the outsourcing laboratory take in that amount of inventory to start working those kits? So we're at a challenge, but I mean, we're getting closer and closer.
So how many still need?
We're probably in the 1,500 range, give or take. Well, if we get this other one, next 400 batch, we're going to put a very sizable dent in our inventory. We have, well, the state lab doesn't take the untested kits, or actually go to outsourcing. We're assigned to outsourcing laboratory, which is Bodie Laboratories ourselves. We have to work with what they have space in their evidence to take in. So as they work through what we send, they let the state lab know, okay, we can take this number, or we can take this number. That's why the 400's been pretty good, because they're working through space and saying we can handle this. So they're able to say this is what we can take in at this time and work through. Oh, okay, yeah. We originally,
In 2019.
yeah, so just kind of a little backstory. In 2018, we submitted to the crime laboratory, what our inventory was, which was around 1,711 cases, which we looked into. Some have been sent to other agencies because maybe somebody did the kit at Duke Hospital, but they reported it being somewhere else. So that, give or take a few there. So we've been working through, starting in 2018, sending those off through the outsourcing program. And as right now, as a report to begin with, we've had officially, as far as complete testing, which means outsourcing through the state lab verification, 270 kits that have been tested of our inventory, in which we have done 13 individuals have been arrested based off of, for 17 cases. Yeah, for 17 out of 7, for 7 tied to 17 cases. No, we're only solely working on everything that's from 2018 back. Anything that's new it will be to our new current and active SVU, Special Victims Unit. So when someone reports a crime now, that kit's actually going into the system far as will be a current case. It will not be classified as cold case. We're strictly just all cold case and untested that were identified from 2018 back to, I think it's 1988. Mm-hmm. No, they're not part of the backlog. Actually, we're very closely following the Survivors Act that was established by this, with Attorney General Josh Steins and also the Governor, as far as where we're following those regulations, making sure these kits are being tested in a timely manner. So we're very closely follow that. So our procedure is when kits come in, they go for testing. So we're not going to allow a backlog to grow on our newly submitted kits. The biggest thing I was saying out is we're going to continue to work these cases. It doesn't matter how long, we're going to find ways that we can do it. That's why we implemented and getting funding for the forensic genealogy to add us another tool to try to identify them, because we sometimes have cases that these individuals may have never made it into CODIS. So we're going to find other ways to look into it. I've also been very active in getting back into the federal VICAP, which is the violent incident or violent offender capture system, which we provide information about our cases. They can go out to other agencies. Maybe we can learn stuff from them. It's more like kind of, I don't want to say profile, but it's just agency information, more intel sharing. So we may lead on, hear something, or we may be able to give something to someone else who goes, I think this might match this guy, or this person, and we can seek after that. So we're always looking for ways to continue, because these cases may be old, but we have done, our view is they're definitely not forgotten, because we have things we can do to work on them. I have no real personal story other than, for me, this is one of the situations where we all know that this is involving a very intimate part of everyone's life. And for that to occur to someone and have to live through that for the rest of their life without an answer, that's what drives me every day to come in and work with our people and work what we need to do to hopefully bring them answer, even if it's just they want to know, because at the end of the day, it's their decision if we move forward in the trial of the victim, that is. But if we can bring them resolution one way or the other, then that makes my day right there. We're actually, I will say, as far as the process right now, the way the North Carolina State Crime Lab has set up with outsourcing with private labs has really sped up what we're doing. Because every time kits go, we're receiving every month from Bodie an update of what they've tested. So every month we're receiving downloads of what's going on, So I would say the process that we have is going very well. And now that we're able to work and get more kits out is actually a plus. So I think it's just getting better and better. I think the biggest thing we just need for, anybody in the community is just, If you feel like you've been involved or something has happened or you know someone, we do have a resource. Like I said, we have an in-house victims advocate. That's her sole job. Ms. Tavares is working with victims, helping them work through from the beginning of the investigation all the way to prosecution and resources. So even if they need something like that, we also have a collaboration with the Durham Crisis Response Center. So, I can't say we need more. It's just that we have it. We just, if someone needs it, we're ready. Yeah, and like I said, we are very victim-centered. So there are a lot of cases you saw where 73 hits have happened. But when we speak to the victim, it's their choice. We're not going to push them. We want them, but we all make sure their well-being is set. Sometimes we have cases where the suspect's doing a life sentence. And the victim's like, well, if he's doing life and I know he's never going to get out, I'm okay. At least I know who did this to me. And we've had that personally from one from 1998. So it's just things like that. We make sure they're prepared and what they want to do. And we always leave them with, if you change your mind, we are here. And we're ready to take over this case. All right. That's it. Thank y'all very much. Enjoyed it.